that's your consistent default, you're going to be less and less dependent on the outside world to make you happy. And when COVID and protests and things of these natures happen, you can roll with it easier. It can have less of a negative impact on you because you are solid at your core, because you've been doing your self-care. And nothing can shake your foundation. You are true to you no matter what's happening around you. And what can self-care do better than anything else? Self-care kills insecurity. The more you take care of yourself, the more you put yourself first, the more action you take towards your goals, the less insecure you become. You develop a reliance on yourself to do what's right for you, and it perpetuates and motivates that to happen again and again and again. You get hungry for it, and you start to develop a taste for it. You start to take care of yourself, feel better, have less insecurities. Now, it doesn't mean they go away, right? Again, we're not striving for perfect. Right? We want to get rid of this idea that perfectionism is the aim. You miss out on so much of life when you aim for perfect. There is no right, wrong way to do this. You've just got to do it. And a lot of times you've got to fail at it. You've got to try things that make you uncomfortable. You have to get outside of your head and start following your heart and your passions and really start leading from a place of, I know what's best for me. And it's hard sometimes. It's really difficult. It is a challenge. But my friends, it is worth it to come through on the other side and have this built-in confidence that you know what it is you need, who you are, and what you're doing. So when big things happen and these negative shifts approach, you get, a breakup happens, your car dies, you lose your job, something horrible in the world happens, it doesn't put you into a painful sadness coma where you're under the covers for days. You can experience that pain, you can have that challenge, and you can learn from it, grow from it, work it, and take that most important step of figuring out, what do I need to do for me to process whatever it is that's coming at me. So I want to use an example right now to kind of help kind of reinforce this. So let's say you're somebody who deals with a lot of insecurity, right? You're really unsure of your positions on things. You don't want to speak up because you're not sure if what you have to say is worth it. You often tend to default to others' priorities. You take others' words for it. You really start to buy into this negative thought that everybody knows more than you or better than you. And so you start latching on to other people for your own internal needs and self-worth. And I promise you, my friends, I've been down this road, and all it does is get you confused and wrapped up until something horrible happens and it breaks inside you and you realize, oh my God, I've just wasted all this time placing my eggs in someone else's priority basket. And what about Shmi, right? That is what happens when you abandon self-care and devote yourself and put your self-worth in the bucket of somebody else's priorities. And that's not where we want to be, because that's not really showing that other person true love. What that's doing is it's kind of a lazy scapegoat for really figuring out what it is to you. You have to make you the priority, because when you don't, you just end up in a cycle, an insecurity cycle that devalues and degrades you over and over and over again. And if we want to replace that with the grooves of security, confidence, assurance, then you're going to have to make self-care more than just a once in a while thing. In addition to all that, is self-care dispels that I'm not good enough feeling and thoughts. Because the more efforts you use to take care of yourself, the more you really invest in yourself, the more that ugly feeling of not being enough, not having enough, not doing enough will go away. The only one who can change that thought is you. And the only way you can change that thought and rewrite that script of I'm not good enough is to start to take the position that I am good enough. I do deserve. And the way you reinforce that groove and that thought pattern is every day, every single day, you make it a point to do one thing, one little thing that is intentional self-care. I don't care if that one intentional thing of self-care is drinking water or going to bed on time or eating a nutritious meal or getting some activity or coloring or hula hooping or any of the millions of ideas that this podcast has come up with. One thing a day that you do intentionally to take care of yourself, and you will eventually fade away that thought of I'm not good enough. Now again, there's no perfection involved in this. Is it going to creep back in? You bet your sweet ass it is. But every time it does, it will be pervasive and you'll notice it. A lot of us that have those feelings of I'm not good enough, I don't do enough, what my opinion is not important enough, that is reinforced, and that is our sort of default music in the background. And as you start to break that pattern and turn that sound down, the more pervasive it becomes when it does rear its ugly head back up. Because if you get into that headspace and you really secure yourself in I am good enough, I have enough, I do enough, I love hard, and that's good, I love enough, and I love me, then every time you have those negative self-thoughts of I'm not good enough, you will see it. It'll be glaringly obvious. And when it does come up, you just can examine it and be like, where did that come from? 99% of the time, you can follow it down this little path and figure out where that started, nip it in the bud, and start a different thought process. Something else that self-care can do for us is that it helps us uncover what's really wrong. So right now, I want you to think about your problems, whatever they might be. What's really bugging you right now? What's something you feel like, God, if this one thing would fix itself, if I could just fix this one thing, then all the other things would be okay. Just get that thought in your head, mull it over for a second. And I want you to think about this for a second. Most of the time, our problems present as one thing when really they're another. Let me give you an example. So let's say you think your problem right now is that you're overweight. Okay, you're not thin enough. You need to lose weight. And if that's your thought, that's the problem, that's how it's presenting. But through self-care, you learn that it's not the weight that it's the problem. It's the fact that you don't have self-worth and you don't love yourself enough at this weight. Even if you are overweight, obese, morbidly obese, you can still love yourself right where you're at. You can make efforts towards a different weight if that's really something you're focused on, if that's a goal you have, and that can become your self-care. You can start to tell your partner, I need to get up early, I need to go to bed early so I can do my exercise, or I need to, have this block of time to meal plan. You can start making that your self-care priority. But if you really use self-care as a tool and you really start to get into this inquiry of what can I do for myself today, you'll start to figure out that the problem isn't being overweight. That's the symptom. That's how the problem is presenting itself. The real problem is you don't think you're good enough. You don't love yourself enough. You're not making you the priority. Maybe you haven't tried something that really could work for you, because you feel defeated that you've tried everything. But I bet you haven't tried everything. If you had, you would have reached your goal by now. And that is a really hard truth that I think we have to balance between the negative self-talk and the self-care. Because sometimes self-care looks like accountability. Sometimes self-care is coming up against a problem, thinking about how can I solve this problem, coming up against, well, gosh, all those negative thoughts of like, I've tried everything and I don't know what to do and I'm really confused and it's overwhelming and blah, blah, blah. And then realizing, oops, this is really not about the weight. You follow me on this? Now, again, your problem could be your finances. It could be the fact that you've lost your job and therefore you've lost your identity. A lot of people are having that crisis right now. But through self-care, you can start to see that it's not about the job or the identity that's lost. It's about creating a more solid self, regardless of the job, regardless of the money, regardless of whatever's going on in the world. And that's the real problem. Self-care definitely uncovers what's really wrong if you just keep at it. And you're not at that once in a while level, but you're at that practicing level. You're getting to that mastery level of the default. Remember, we talked about this. You want to get to that place where you come from it. You come from any problem. You come from any challenge that you're facing, and you come at it from the lens of self-care. Lastly, one of the best things that self-care can do for you is it can teach and reinforce self-awareness. So again, as we're asking ourselves on a daily basis, what is it I need to do today to take care of myself? What do I need? The more you sit with that, the more you're going to start to reinforce self-awareness. And sometimes shit gets blown open. Because if you sit with it and nothing is coming up, or you get the same answer over and over and over again, but you're persistent and consistent, and you make it a routine to constantly inquire, what do I need? What do I need to feel better right now? How can I level up? How can I make this self-care easier? What can I do to solve whatever problem I'm facing right now? I lost my job and my identity's tied up with that. How do I fix that? What can I do for myself to fix that? Well, you can start by doing something super small, like incorporating a bedtime routine, drinking water, getting yourself a new outfit. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. When you're feeling stuck in your circumstances, when you're feeling like you have no answers, it's because you're stuck in a pattern of beliefs. You believe there's no answer to this problem. You believe you've tried everything. You believe that, oh my God, this only is happening to me right now. I'm isolated and nobody else is going through this. That is a belief. You could choose to believe that all you want. But if you're really serious about bettering yourself and becoming the best version of yourself this lifetime, start asking yourself on a daily basis, what is it that I need to do today to take care of myself first? You know, when you first get out of bed and you start thinking about the chores and the work and the struggle and the fact that you don't have a job or the fact that you're overweight, or you start focusing only on the problem itself, you're going to zap your energy and destroy any momentum you may have gained from the day before. So really hone in on that belief system, that story you're telling yourself, that script that's playing over and over in your head. Self-care is how you can change that story. And as we're leveling up, as we're changing our patterns from self-care as a once in a while thing to a weekly or daily practice to I stop and think about what I need 50 times a day minimum, you are going to see that all of those things that present themselves as challenges, as problems, a solution will come from within, and it'll be one that you can really integrate into your life to make lasting change. Because the goal of self-care, the entire reason you take care of yourself, is so that you can be stronger and more loving to everyone around you. I want to run through that list real quick again. So again, what self-care can do for you. It can give you clarity. Number 2, it can transform your relationships. Number 3, it heightens your compassion. Number 4, self-care can make you look better. Number 5, self-care kills insecurity. Number 7, self-care dispels the I'm not good enough feeling and thoughts. Number 8, self-care helps you uncover what's really wrong. Number 9, self-care teaches and reinforces self-awareness. And number 10, self-care can ground you in the most universal truth. And that is that you are an amazing, incredible person with a beautiful love light that's unique and is going to shine in this world and create good. And you can unlock and unleash that power within you simply by making you the priority and reinforcing that positive groove, that positive thought. You are enough. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. If you have a story you'd like to share and you want to be on the show, please email me. It's Kris, Kris, @selfcareissexy.com. Okay, we've got some really great content coming your way, so stay tuned. And remember that self-care is sexy. We're giving you